Okay.
This meeting is being recorded by the host or a participant.
Mr. Chair, the meeting is yours.
Oh, at this point, let's call the Gig Harbor Civil Service Commission meeting for Thursday, October 11th, 2022 at 3:03 p.m. To order. And Diane, would you take the roll call?
Yes, I'd be happy to. So, okay. Kelly Busey.
I'm here.
Okay. Tom Brown,
Here.
Denny Richards,
Here.
Shannon Costanti. Here. Charles Perry.
Here.
Thank you.
And Diane, I believe if you hover over the chair's box in the upper right corner, 3 little dots, if you click on that, you could rename him if needed.
That's what I'm working on right now.
Oh, okay.
Got my daughter's computer, so
Oh,
there we go.
There we are.
Okay. All righty, there we go. Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the previous meeting on June 29th?
I did. I got it read. Yeah.
Okay, any changes or amendments?
Not from me. It
Okay,
looks fine.
Tom, do I hear a motion?
Motion to accept.
Okay, Tom, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, they're done. Extension of Sergeant's promotional list. Kelly, I think you're presenting that.
Yes, good afternoon again, Commission. In your packet on page 2, I believe, should be the final rank results of the Gig Harbor Civil Service Sergeant's promotional testing that we held last August. You as a body certified this list on August 23rd, 2021. Per our civil service rules, that list is good for 1 year unless extended for 1 year or replaced through a subsequent testing process. We did not have a subsequent testing process within the year, so the extension would be up to you if you wanted to move that along. I will mention that Trey Federici was promoted off of this list. Eddie Dominguez resigned. And then, as you know from our last special meeting, you have reinstated him. He is due to resume employment with us actually the day after this list expires, but I don't know if he remains eligible. That's something we'd have to dive into.
That was the only thing I was going to ask about.
I don't think so, but I would have to prove that in the civil service rules.
Okay.
It may be silent on that.
So at this point, if Eddie came off and you said Trey has already been promoted, that would just leave
Officer Rafael.
Rafael.
Well, yeah.
And then Officer Irwin took this kind of more for a practice than anything. He knew he would not be eligible during the term of this list or any extension.
Although if, oh, okay, yeah, 2023, so that's next year.
Right.
Okay. How many sergeant positions? I mean, we're not looking at filling any right now, are we?
No, there are no immediate openings.
Okay. Any idea if there's going to be in the near future?
It is my understanding that one of our sergeants might be retiring in the first 6 months of next year.
Okay. And how long does it take in order to put a new list together? We go through testing again, correct?
Yeah, it's usually a kind of a 2-day testing process. I hedge that a bit only because a component of the testing process is a peer review, and HR handles that, and the officers are welcome to go up and in confidence fill out a peer review of each candidate as they go. And that probably is spread out over a week, but the actual testing process is likely a 2-day process, a written test and I think we do an oral, we do a battery of like scenario training with outside evaluators, I believe.
Okay. I guess the question I would have then is if we renew this list, and it would be a one-person list at this point, or possibly a two-person list, but probably a one-person list. Should we look at renewing it sometime at the end of the year? You know, next 4 months or first of next year?
No, I think it's an either or. I think it's either that the list is valid now, or if it's extended. And you know, since we're up against the August 23rd deadline, this would be the time to do that.
Well, to extend it, but then to plan on redoing a new list,
Oh, to retest, you mean?
to retest and create a new list the first of the year, or December, January, so that
It's our practice to always have a promotional list available in case something happens. So, you know, we have,
sure.
in case an unexpected opening occurs. So if you chose to not renew it, I would then move towards doing a testing, probably realistically October, beginning of October.
Right, but if we renewed it now
Mhm.
or extended it, we could still create a new list in January. So we'd have a list with one name on it from now until January in case if there's an emergency, and then create a new list in January that would allow Eddie to test again, and Ryan would be closer, and you know, there may be another few officers that would like to get their name on the list.
Yeah, you ask an interesting question. So if you'll give me just a second, and I'm sorry I have to do this during the meeting time, but let me look in the civil service rules here and see if I can find out if it's a renewal for 1 year period, or whether you can enact your own rule to make it short of that.
I believe it's a 1 year, you extend it for a year.
But can't you at any time decide to create a new list to replace it?
Not if you, as a commission, if we extend it for a year, then it'll be good for a year.
Correct.
Yeah. And
And the citation here comes from Civil Service Rule 8.17, Section E. A promotional list, I'll just read it verbatim. A promotional list shall be maintained by the city for each civil service promotional position. Okay, so we have to have the list in place. And each list shall be valid for 1 year with the possibility of an extension for another year for a maximum total of 2 years at the direction of the Civil Service Commission in consultation with the appointing authority. So I assume that the verbatim reading of that the possibility of an extension for another year is what your renewal period would be.
right. And I've got to tell you, from my experience with 20 years of working with civil service in Vancouver, I only saw that extension once, and that was a real morale buster because somebody wanted that one person to become a sergeant, and he didn't score high enough to make it in the top 3. And so it can be real hard on morale, because you've got people who've come now from other agencies who are probably eligible. I don't know that. I don't know any of these people anymore. Kelly's the only one I know in the department that was there when I was there. So I just think that's a real morale buster, and I think morale is probably pretty good right now.
Well, I'll add that we've never not extended this, at least in my tenure.
I'm sorry, it's not what?
We've never not
Oh,
extended the list, but you know, it doesn't come up that often. So
yeah, right.
But if our list is, if it's down to one person, it's not much of a list.
No, you really should have 3 people to choose from. That's my feeling anyway. I would, if I were the chief, I'd certainly want the chance of looking at 3 candidates who pass the test.
And especially if we're looking at, if we're down to one person on the list, and we use that person to fill a position sometime in the first quarter or second quarter of next year, then we'd have 0 people on the list.
Right.
It sounds like the civil service rules are silent as to whether or not you can replace the list earlier than 1 year.
Well, it expires this month, is that?
Well,
right?
it expires this month,
Yeah,
right? Which means we could let it expire or we can extend it. But if we extend it, can we extend it so in case if there's an emergency, we have a list with 1 person on it from now until January, and then create a new list in January, replacing this list that only has 1 name on it?
well, if the list expires at the end of this month, there could be a new test given right now. You don't have to wait until January.
Yeah, it would take me a few weeks to put a test together.
Yeah, right. But I mean, you don't have to wait a few months. It's just a few weeks.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. And then you have a new list with 3 names on it. If another person leaves or retires, then you're ready to hire 2 people off that list, maybe even 3. So, I mean, it's department's up to 22 now. Is that correct?
20, it'll be 21 when Dominguez rejoins us.
All right. So there's a possibility someone could move on or retire, or 2 or 3. So I think it's important to get a new list going as soon as this one expires.
How do you feel, Kelly? I mean,
Well, that's an awkward position. I mean, any chief would say they want their entire department on the list, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's more of a policy decision for you guys, but
Tom, do you have any thoughts?
I agree with what Denny just said. Unless Kelly has some operational reason or preference, I'm happy with Denny's suggestion.
I tend to also fall into that category. I think that's kind of why I brought it up. The fact that there'll only be 1 person actually on the list, and
Yeah,
before this list is up, we know we're going to use 1 person, or we most likely will use at least 1 person, which would give us a list of 0. And it would give Kelly the least number of people to choose from. So looks
I
like
can't forecast how many people would test again. I mean, there were some eligibles that decided not to test this last go round, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have a question?
I do, thank you. And it's a pleasure to meet all of you. As you may know, I'm new to the city, serving as part of the HR team. And the only question that I have as it relates to the rule, and I'm entirely unfamiliar at the moment, but as I see in the packet, last year's letter dated August 23rd, 2021, the last sentence indicates unless extended for 1 year, which is the dialogue that is occurring,
Right.
or replaced through a subsequent testing process. So it suggests to me that perhaps there is some option available to replace with a subsequent testing process sometime in the course of the year, if in fact this list is extended by way of the commission. And I realize the language in the civil service rules that Kelly, you referenced there didn't indicate that, but it just makes me question whether there is some provision somewhere that allowed for the language to be represented here in the letter as such. So it suggests to me
That's
that
what I would think.
Yeah, if you're going to have a test, I mean, if you're going to have 1 person left on a list and you extend it for a year and he gets promoted, then you'll have a test then. But I think you should give everyone that's eligible a chance to take a look at whether or not they want to test for the position of sergeant. I mean, that doesn't come up that often in a department this size. So it's kind of important for morale, in my opinion. And I've watched it for, like, say, 20 years in Vancouver. So
Sure.
I've seen people try to jockey around and hire somebody they get in the way of the civil service and they just want to skip over that and hire who they want to hire. So we don't want that going on.
Although the way it is written on this for 1 year or replaced through a subsequent testing process, we could renew this and then still replace it, January or something.
Right.
I'm looking for where in the civil service rules, and I'm sorry I didn't refresh myself with these before this meeting started.
Well,
But I'm trying to find out where the language in the letter came from, and I don't quite see that.
because I'd hate to let this thing expire August 23rd and have no list for a month, 2 months, and then all of a sudden have some sort of an emergency where we need one.
Well, I can always appoint an acting sergeant too.
Yeah.
It's-
If you can do that, then I wouldn't have an issue with letting it expire and get started on a new list. Because there's also the question on Eddie, whether he would qualify or not, because leaving and then coming back.
Yeah, my guess when I prepared last month's meeting materials there, just remembering back reading through the section on reinstatement, I think that the rules are silent on that. I don't think they ever anticipated a situation like that.
Right. However, if he were to leave, he would come off the list. And then would you be able to put him back on the list when he's reinstated?
That's the question. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think that the rules are silent on that because I remember nothing referencing that.
And when he left, nobody probably wrote a letter saying, if you return, there's no expectation that you'd be in a supervisory position. I've seen that happen with Public Works and I've seen it happen in parks in my career. So the person allowing the person to leave, when he leaves, he gets a letter explaining that he's not going to be reinstated at his supervisory level.
Right.
Yeah. And like I say, I don't know him. He may have been a great sergeant. I don't
Sure,
know at all.
sure. On that point, does anybody want to make a motion to extend this list, or do we think we want to let this list expire and create a new list? And if
I
we
would make a
run into
motion
an
to-
emergency, Kelly can appoint somebody on a temporary position,
Yeah, just an interim sergeant. So,
interim. Yeah.
yeah. I would make a motion that we let this list expire and test again.
Can I, I'm sorry, very sorry to interrupt there, Commissioner Richards, but I think I found the answer to the question that was floating here. Because I want to make sure you have all the information you have available. Give me just a second. Okay, then here you go. The name of a former employee who resigned, as in the case of Dominguez, or returned may not be returned to a promotional register unless recommended by the head of the former employing department and approved by the Civil Service Commission. So it isn't silent. It does address that very thing. So.
Okay. But again, you've made a motion.
I've made a motion to retest. Let this one expire and retest, and he can take that test. It looks like they're in alphabetical order, but he passed the test before. I'm sure he's not afraid of a test. But that's part of what happens when you leave and then decide that was a bad choice and come back. You lose something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Tom?
I second that motion.
Okay, any discussion? We've kind of already had it. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. So passes unanimous.
Okay, so I will prepare myself to put together another promotional testing to occur sometime in, I'll say early fall. I don't want to pin myself down to a date, but
Sure, Sure, late September, early October or something like that.
That's the timeframe I'll aim to do, yeah.
Yeah, very good. Okay, next new business item, the discussion regarding the meeting date and time.
Diane, are you able to give me permissions to share screen?
She should be able to.
Oh, you know what? I think it's in your setup. It says host disabled participant screen sharing unless you know some way to override that during a meeting.
Shannon? She's
Just
on
give her a
her way.
minute so I can, if you don't mind giving her a minute to maybe do that, then I can.
Sure. That's fine. What were you gonna?
I'm gonna
Share.
share Josh's memo. You may all have it in front of you anyway.
Yeah,
Yes, we have it came to us this week in email.
yeah,
Okay.
I read that, yeah.
Okay, so we're probably good to go then.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm presenting on in place of Mr. Stecker. And he's quoting Gig Harbor Municipal Code, which requires that we hold regular meetings once a quarter. What's been happening is that we keep the Civil Service Commission meetings on our planning calendar for monthly meetings, and then more often than not, they're canceled.
Right,
So the code only requires that we meet quarterly. If we need to meet before that, like in the instance of last month, we call a special meeting. It has to be advertised within 24 hours of the meeting, and it's held and recorded just like a regular meeting.
sure.
I would, in looking through Mr. Stecker's memo here, that we should adopt the regular quarterly regular meeting schedule on the first Thursdays of the month, February, May, August, and November at 3 p.m. And the reason for the first Thursday is that that's kind of an open period for the city clerk and probably myself too. So that seems to work on our end. I don't know how it works on your end. But then again, we would call a special meeting if we needed to conduct business outside of those 4 dates a year. The proper motion, if that's amenable to you guys, is listed at the bottom of page 1 of that memo.
And I think taking it off a Friday is a good thing if you're retired and you need to like go to the beach or something, you have to cancel it so you can stay back for a meeting or meet
Yeah.
by phone.
Yep,
So Thursdays are better. Plus you have employees even there at the city that have Thursdays or off Fridays off, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
and making it the first Thursday makes sense if it, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me which Thursday of the month we do it. And it works best for the city employees.
Yeah.
Fewest number of conflicts. Tom?
I believe that Josh also stated in that memo that he would ask the council to remove that requirement for a quarterly meeting, which I'm very much in favor of. I don't like the idea of attending a meeting if there's nothing of significance on the agenda.
Amen.
yeah.
So how do we make that happen, Kelly?
At the
Can
at the bottom of page 1 of Josh's memo, there is the wording for the correct motion to make, if you agree with all of that. The paragraph begins.
Yes,
if the
Diane.
condition-
Oh, just Shannon came and took a look at it. It looks like we're in the correct settings.
Oh, here we go. Let me pull that up.
Zoom meeting.
What are you seeing?
Yeah, we're seeing the bottom and your cursor's right there.
Okay.
Yep.
So this right here would be the motion to make if you agree with that.
Right. I would move to amend the Civil Service Rules, section 3.01, to state that the commission shall meet on the first Thursday of the months of February, May, August, and November at 3 p.m.
Tom, did you want to second that?
second,
Okay, any discussion, additional discussion? If not, We'll call for the question and call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. It carries.
So then the action on this would be either Diane or Josh would need to send out an updated calendar invitation recurring for February, May, August, and November. The first Thursday. And then we'll obviously have to call a special meeting if I have to certify a promotional list on a
Right.
subsequent test.
That's fine. Yep.
Which would be great. We could do that first part of October or middle of October.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Very good. Anything else for the agenda? Any other business?
Don't believe so. Move to adjourn.
All in
Second.
favor? Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Looks like we're done.
Thank you, everyone. And then we
Thank
need
you.
to, let's see, we need to stop the recording. I will do that, I believe. No, Diane will have to do that.